operated and still is. And what does that mean? It means all timers we have for each lane of the pool is 6 lanes. Our pool, not all pools. There were one pool had 4 lanes and one pool had 8 lanes. And so the norm, the most common thing was a 6-lane pool. So we're gonna have lanes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is actually how it is. So if you went to the pool, it would look like this. 6 would be over here and 1 would be over here. These were our home lanes. What does that mean? It means our swimmers only swam at home in 1, 3, 5. This was a universal. This applied to every pool we went to. Home team, 1, 3 lanes. 1, 3, 5. Home. 2, 4, 6. Away. So the most hated lane, if there's a most hated lane in all of summer league swimming, it is lane 4, because that is the opposition's best swimmer. The best swimmer from our team was always lane 3, or that's how it was intended to be. Sometimes things happen, and sometimes lane 1 wins or lane 5 wins. But this would be the fastest, so fastest, second fastest, third fastest. And each lane had 3 timers, 3 to 4 timers, ideally. Human timers. Had 3, 2, 4 human timers. And so each timer would get a time, have a stopwatch, get a time, and then they'd average, if I'm recalling correctly. But that might be wrong. And so there's there's 18 to 24 people behind the blocks. Who were the people behind the blocks? Who were those timers? They were our parents. They were our family. Literally, my dad, who worked for Boeing, would fight to get off work with people breathing down his neck about being an executive, which he turned down to be a part of our family and be at these summer league swim meets. He chose timing at summer league over time at Boeing. He was not the only one. There were lawyers, there were doctors, there was one of my friends, her dad is a judge, not a lawyer, a judge, and he would even make it sometimes. And why does it matter that, and my mom would help with ribbons, she'd be a spectator. There were spectators, there were timers, there were runners, there were ribbon makers, there was an announcer, there was a clerk de course, and all of these things were run by volunteers from the community. And that tended to be parents and family. And the really cool thing about having 3 to 4 human timers behind each block is the Boeing company is there. A judge from the, state legal system, judicial system is there. Lawyers are there, doctors are there. A whole bunch of people from a whole bunch of different careers and tracks of life are there. And they'd be talking, having a good time, and they'd run a scenario past each other. Oh, what would you do if you were on trial? And they would ask us, the swimmers. Hey, this is 6 years old. Okay, maybe not 6 years old. But I was 6 years old when I started this, and it continued all the way through. So I did it for, if I'm recalling correctly, 12 years. And so 12 years of people from different industries filtering out, okay, what's relevant for swimming or might be appropriate for a swim deck, and then kind of throwing out scenarios. And it was great. I would say the community built was huge. Every single swimmer was notable. Every single swimmer was known in the community, whether they stayed on the team or quit, no matter what place they got. Every single person was known in the community. We kind of agreed on Our town of Innisarden does not have a town hall, but if it did, it's like the clubhouse and the pool is like our biggest thing. So swimming was like everybody kind of knew each other. And so in terms of notability, I was like thinking about what is analogous to that, what might have the same kind of role. I remember the parents, I remember the scenarios, I've drawn on what the judge had to say and used it in real life situations where I'm like, what this supervisor of mine might be doing might not be legal. I'm like, I can go back to the lessons I learned in summer league and apply them in my own real life. That is called like priceless. It was a priceless, and I did like the year-round club swimming 1 year. It's nothing like that, okay? It has none of that. It's the bubble of swimming, and it filters out the real life stuff. So then there's local theater. I did my school theater with a bunch of swimmers. Like literally we have pictures of me and Paris of Penzance, and it's like me, the backstroker from the same team, the breaststroker from Clohaya, and we're all there. So it was like, theater and swimming were not necessarily synonymous, but swimmers and some form of performance arts, be it band, orchestra, local theater, their own, garage band, that kind of stuff. Most swimmers did do something else. They were not one-hit wonder. Or choir. Choir was a very common one, so singing or songwriting. And so it was common, a common mode, especially for like the summer league to high school overlap, that the performance mode was carried over to other things. So then here it's kind of, there's the actors. There's the design behind the scenes. So that was like me with, and then it was just kind of like volunteers. So that's more like concessions. So our swim meets also had concessions. So food. Behind the scenes, so that's like set design, that's script writing or script adaptations. Conception of the play, is it going to be set in the original Annie setting, or are we going to switch it to Rwanda? That kind of thing. And so there's a bit of, I think this culture is similar in that in going to see plays with my family growing up, there's the family component. It was very much, we went as a family, and the theater aspect at school was more of like classmates, but that's kind of like summer league in like one's age group. So it'd be grouped by age. Our races would be swum by age. And so I was like, it's kind of like classmates. And so that kind of trumped family. Like in both cases, my sister she was a lady in Pirates of Penzance and I was a pirate. And she did swim team. She was a really good sprint freestyler. And she liked butterfly. I was a breaststroker. If you had to typify me as something else, backstroke and like individual medley. And so we didn't really have overlap like whatsoever, but we still did the same things, and age or class kind of trump the family component within the community itself, except for as volunteers. So my parents were there and we both would interact with my parents. So I'd say both local theater and summer league, in my experience and in like perception in other places, it's kind of been true that they're very much family occasions. Like my parents could come and help out with set design if they wanted to for the play, that kind of thing. These are very much community things, and the set designer can be it might be actually be a community artist and be a bigger deal than any of the actors. Just kind of like the announcer from my summer league team had more notability than kind of any of the swimmers, including those who went on to compete in Division I NCAA teams, kind of thing. So just because one goes on to do something that's more maybe stereotypically, oh, this has to be notable, is how it worked is that person was not really notable here, like in the summer league or maybe the local theater setting. So maybe they got their notability somewhere else. And yeah, I guess, and kind of concluding the analogy is maybe the Boeing company, I have a very unique swim club and a competition experience because it kind of ties into the construction, the design, the architecture of the pool is kind of reflected to respect nature and be part of nature, which is very different than like, say, a big university where the pool is tucked away. No, the pool is part of nature. And we got a lot of kind of crap about that, but that's just the reality of it's the legacy of William Boeing is to respect nature. And that was reflected in our summer league pool and the culture around it. And so what might be an analogous thing in local theater? Well, maybe quokkas. So like if quokkas are a marsupial. Marsupial have pouches. And a lot of, clothing have these like marsupial pouches to put stuff in. So like if one wanted to assess whether marsupials have had the species, like this, not the species, like a quokka is a species, but then there's the marsupial family or something like that. If one wanted to assess the impact of marsupials on the theater community, local theater community, it might be through things like marsupial pouches, which sometimes people call kangaroo pouches, but it's actually a marsupial pouch because a kangaroo is a type of marsupial. It's not unique to kangaroos. It's actually a marsupial thing. And quokkas, yeah. So that's a bizarre kind of segue for an ending, but this could go on for a very long time. It's like if the teacher in me is like, this would be like a semester-long thing if you wanted to actually flesh out, it's a specialty course on local theater and summer league comparisons. But that's kind of meandering discussion of the analogy.